curriculum development, and health equity. Dr. Cohn's model for lab to living room translation promotes interactions between scientists and the communities being served. She continues to serve her community through educational programs as a part of the leadership in the community of Harlem Health Revival and as a member of the New York State Health Equity Council. Further, she has developed a tool for community faith-based leaders who are advising congregants on research participation. So without further ado, I'm turning this meeting over to Dr. Elizabeth Cohn. Welcome so much.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for allowing my participation in this academy. It's really been great, and thank you, Lula May, for all of your partnership over these years. It's fabulous. So we're going to talk a little bit about elevating community voice today and really centering the voice of community in research. And there are not that many ways of doing it, so I want to review one of the most powerful ones. So I'm going to talk today about something called Photovoice, which the purpose of which is to elevate the voice of the community into policy. And policy is one of our one of our strongest and most powerful levers for health. So I'm going to share my screen for just a minute and talk a little bit about elevating the voice of communities through Photovoice. So first, I want to talk about the fact that Photovoice is designed to not only give the community a voice, but also to influence policy. And when we influence policy, we influence health. It is literally the most powerful health lever in changing community health that we have. So I can't see everyone on this call, but for Lulu May and I, and perhaps some others, we remember a time when you could smoke anywhere. There wasn't a place you couldn't smoke. You could smoke as a teacher in a classroom. You could smoke as a nurse at the nurse's station, inside the hospital, inside the lounge. It was crazy. In fact, they would sell cigarettes to people at the bedside. They would come to the bedside of people to sell them cigarettes, like candy stripers would. And you could smoke in restaurants, and you could smoke anywhere. This is my nursing class at the bottom. So, you know, this was this rules and taxation and legislation around cigarette smoking changed our culture and changed the way that people respond and lowered cancer, a preventable form of cancer from cigarettes. It's amazing. It's amazing. And similarly, these pictures look so possible to us now. But there were decades where there were no seatbelts. There was just riding in the car. There was people sat. In fact, I, as a child, rode in the back of pickup trucks, but I also rode in the back of station wagons where we would put suitcases. We children used to just sit back there, lie back there, and play and talk to each other in the back, those flat backs of station wagons. And forget about seatbelts. We didn't even have seats. So it's a changing world, and policy really helps us. But how do we get policymakers' attention? Like, how do we get Gail Brewer's attention? How do we get Eric Adams' attention? And one way is through Photovoice. So Photovoice is a participatory method where community members take pictures of things in their community and then pair them with narratives and invite policymakers to see the community through their eyes, through the community members' eyes. So we use this method in a study that I published right when the FDA changed its ruling around calorie posting in chain restaurants. And we wanted to tell the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, we wanted to tell them, like, how are these calorie postings going? Are they legislatively compliant? In other words, do they fulfill the letter of the law? And then also, are they practically useful? Can people use them to eat healthier, which is the point, right? The point of the calorie postings was to get people to eat healthier. So if people, if they were the letter of the law or legislatively compliant, but they weren't practically useful, then they weren't really fulfilling the spirit of what we were trying to do. And we showed the FDA these pictures. And we said, these postings, which are from Kentucky Fried Chicken in Harlem, these postings are legislatively compliant, but they are not practically useful. They don't really help you choose better options. Like the 8-piece with 2 sides and 4 biscuits is anywhere from 1,600 calories to 6,180 calories. So why does that help you? And how would it help you more if you were online with just a few minutes, just a minute to order what you wanted? How would you use this to make a healthier choice, right? They're like, what, yeah, how can I help you? Like, what do you want? There's a big line of people behind you. What are you to do with this information? Similarly, we saw this in pizza parlors, we saw it in a bunch of places, and we made recommendations based on, you probably recognize a lot of these signs, but we made recommendations based on what they could do after taking these pictures and talking with consumers, and then also talking with store owners. So the store owners were concerned that it would take up too much room on the sign, all the different options. But as it turned out, and this is one that that they actually started doing better with, obviously if you're on the computer, you can do it better. It turned out that we could help people make healthier options without taking up much room at all. If we used, instead of a hyphen, we used this system of slashes. Now, I don't know if you can see can you see my pointer, Lulame, or no?
Yes, I can. No,
Okay.
I can see it.
So this one here, look. In this example of the deluxe grilled cheese with ham or bacon, when you make it like this, the deluxe grilled cheese with ham is 530 calories and with bacon is 560. So that doesn't take up any more room than it did when it had the hyphen, but it's a lot clearer about how you can place this order being healthier, have a healthier order. So then I wanted to talk a little bit about Photovoice today, and just a few people sent in, and I know Miss Davis is on the phone. So one of the things that we were trying to think about, and I know you only sent this morning, so I haven't had a lot of time to kind of digest it. But one of the things that the first assignment, I'm going to talk about the second assignment, but I wanted to include people who took the time to do the work. This is Miss Davis, or Dr. Davis, do you want to talk about this a little bit, or do you want me to draw the line between this and policy?
Well, all I could say is the Voltaren, the BioFreeze, and the gel pack. It's something that I'm using more. That's what I wrote about because of my knees. But the whole thing was I was going to the gym on a daily basis to water aerobics. And after the pandemic came in, there's no more water aerobics. And my focus had to be on these things so my knee wouldn't hurt so bad. So that's.
So what do you make of what do you think the policy aspect of this is? Like how did a policy affect this? It has a big policy component.
Well, due to the pandemic, we weren't able to use the recreational centers and even with the mask. So they are closed. The one I attended is closed. I check all the time to see if it has reopened. I don't know if I would go even now, but just the thought of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the policy component there is actually the closing and not reopening right. of some of our facilities, and in this case, I would say that they have that the policy. I think if enough people in your class were showing all the different things that they were going through because the aquatics was closed. I share that passion, by the way. But because the aquatics was closed, that they might consider when is the right time to reopen it. The policy around closing public facilities was not just in these important things, but also public bathrooms, public everything got closed, and a lot of things never reopened. So this would be a great way to introduce to our legislators, to Gail Brewer and Eric Adams, when are you going to think about reopening some of these facilities, even if it's like maybe instead of going 3 times a week, maybe everyone could go once a week to reduce crowding. But again, some of these things are policy implications that then have individual effects.
Oh, okay.
So I think that's really an interesting one and a good one. This person, Mr. Williams, I don't know, is he on the call?
No, he's not here yet.
I think we'll skip that one for now because it didn't come with a narrative. So it would be hard for me to you know, kind of elucidate what the policy and the story behind the picture. So now I want to, instead of then, since we don't have, those are the only 2 that we got from the class, I made some pictures of my own. And Lula and I are engaged in a number of different discussions, as community people often are, around some issues in terms of trust of the medical community. So I have 2 or 3 of trust in the medical community. And then because I'm involved in a group at Columbia that is asking for the patient voice in neurologic diseases, I want to show the class the power of, oh, thank you, Dr. Hicks, I'm sorry, I don't know that I got it. If I did, I'm terribly sorry. I will.
I was the first one to submit it.
You were.
And when you revised it, I didn't send a revised one. I sent an original one. Agnes has it.
Yeah, there
I'm
was
so
the
sorry.
presentation one, the PowerPoint one.
Yeah.
So we'll maybe Agnes, if you want to bring it up. Do you
Yeah,
have to have
I'll
it?
share it.
Let's do that now.
Okay.
It's very possible, Dr. Hicks. I have 660 emails from now and 8 this morning. So now I know you didn't share it today, but I'm just saying that's my mailbox is out of control.
I did it like immediately.
Oh,
So
let's see. Maybe Agnes.
But then the assignment changed, and I didn't follow it with the second.
I heard.
I just kept the first one.
Yeah, it's opening up right now.
So let's look at Dr. Hicks's. So the first assignment, again, was on the effect of COVID. And we have quite a few of these. Oh, yes, thank you so much. Yep. So do you want then Dr. Hicks to walk us through this one?
Well, I have been through 2 in my lifetime natural disasters. One was unnatural, which was the riot in Bushwick of 77 and 78 that devastated my neighborhood. We really never returned to what the glorious days of shopping and just peacefulness. And here we go with COVID shutting down again and making us a desert, a barren desert. And I thought there was another disaster, such as an atomic explosion, because it just seemed permanent and pervasive. And you wondered if we'd ever come back. And I don't think so. I don't think stores are coming back. I think these stores were suffering more or less prior to the pandemic, but I doubt if they'll come back the way they were. And this is a major shopping district in Ridgewood. But my neighborhood on Broadway looks similar to the vibrancy of the picture with light. You know, I always talk about light. On my neighborhood, it's dark because I have an elevated line. And then in this other neighborhood that I've captured was light, where it's a shopping strip and it's just barren. It's desert. It's desert. It's devastating. And it's so depressing to know that I've been through this twice, and I know the lingering feeling of wondering if I'll ever return to normal or will ever return again. And I don't think so, because it's taken almost 30 years and my neighborhood has not come back since the 77 blackout and 77 blackout. And I doubt if this neighborhood will come back, because these were small mom and pop stores, not major department stores or major stores, except for pharmacies.
Yeah. And did you have a second slide behind this?
Say that again?
That was the narrative for this.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, there we go.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And again, yeah, thank you for bringing this up, Agnes. And I think a lot of people are feeling this, working their way through the stages of grief. We're seeing and hearing, people's lives, I think, are, in a sense, becoming unspooled in some ways,
Right.
Um,
My
so-
neighbor was the first one that hit, was the first death, reported death in Queens. And it frightened me. I'm like, oh my God, this is not good. This is going to spread. Yet, and still, that's February. My son and I had gone to Connecticut, Yale New Haven Hospital. And I heard a report about the spread of a virus in December and January, started because in Spain, Italy and Spain. I go to Yale New Haven Hospital to visit someone. We walked out the hospital, we're lost. And I said that to someone, I said, is there a mask mandate? She says, no, we can't use masks. We've not been told that we can use a mask. And this is Yale New Haven Hospital on February 6th. And then the next month, everything shuts down. So I don't think anyone was prepared for this. Just like no one was prepared for the atomic bomb, we were not prepared for this bomb.
So tell me a little bit about how you think what kind of policy would come from something like this? There's two that I
There
can
was
think
a
of.
policy in place, and that's what upsets me. It was told there was a policy in place, and it was ignored. I think the politics needs to be taken out of human lives, and the politics was very much interfering with life and human lives. There was a roadmap. It was left there. It was ignored. Now,
Yeah,
how do we stop that? We need to have a government for the people, by the people, rather than politicians grandstanding on their own points that have nothing to do with real life. This was major. This was confessed. There was a plan. There was a plan.
yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. In a sense, I guess there was a plan, but there wasn't a policy. So I guess that really shows you why, how the power of those things can be. Well, thank you very, very much for that. And I think you're absolutely right. And so then what we will need to do, what we will want to do is ask Eric Adams and the Eric Adams above him and above him and above him to Washington to say how will these things be handled? How can we prepare?
Can I just share something else?
Of course.
The other frightening moment was 9/11. I was a former school teacher, and I remember asking the Board of Ed, what's the plan? What's our policy? When I grew up with shelter drills, I grew up with the CD posters on buildings where you knew to run in an alleyway and hide. 9/11, again, what happened to the policy that we had during the days of the Cold War? Teachers were not given any instructions. We didn't know which school to take our students to. This is high school to K-12. We didn't know what to do. And it was a time when we wondered, were we really at war? Will we be under attack? Will planes overhead come and drop bombs on us? And I felt vulnerable. Third time in my adult life, and I'm 68 now, I felt vulnerable in terms of helplessness and wondering, will we be destroyed? Will we be devastated? The policy is lacking across the board in many areas, and I don't know who's asleep at the wheel or who will wake us up or what the priority is. I don't know what the policy is. I don't know what the priority is.
Right. Well, that again, I think that speaks to this type of, some of these methods are designed to raise the community voice to policymakers. And I feel like that pathway is not, it either isn't being as utilized as we need it to be, or there's still, I think I agree with you. I think we need better policymakers too. But the ability for the community to raise its voice to policymakers is, obviously an important one. And so I support everything that you just said, for sure. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I think, I think we have to think, as I was saying, Lula May and I have been talking a lot with a number of different groups around things like trust and community engagement and things like that. But this pathway to making these policies is I think how one way that we can start to repair what's wrong. Agnes, I'm going to take the screen share back if I could. Thank you. But thank you for sharing that. So I wanted to I wanted to think with this group a little bit, and again, it's in part because Lula May and I are involved in a project around trust in medical communities, and talk about this waiting room. Talk about this waiting room. So what are, I mean, there's no one, I myself, I could share right now, myself that I spent part of the morning having a follow-up mammogram and sonogram. And I think a lot of times when we're in doctor's offices, there's things that are either improving our trust or bringing down our trust in the providers and in the place that we're in. So what would be some things in your experience that would either increase trust or decrease trust in waiting rooms or hospitals? And then I'll tell you what occurred to me when I was thinking about it, this class, having this exam.
That they listen, that you're respected, that your number's called, that there's a system in place whereby patients are seen, more rapidly rather than having lengthy wait, how they prioritize, how they triage. Is it a baby with 105 fever? 101 fever, or the adult with 102 fever that's the priority?
Those are all, I can't see who's talking. Can somebody tell me who's talking? Maybe it's because I'm, who is
Deborah
saying?
Hicks.
I'm sorry. Who?
Deborah.
Oh, thank you, Deborah. I don't know why I can't see you on the those are all true things, I think, and really it's a lot of that, a lot of like who are we in service to? Is it patients in service to the doctor or the doctors in service to the patients? It's sometimes hard to tell. Who's waiting for whom.
Right.
And this is Sheila. And also when they speak to you in terms that you understand, in layman's language, so that you can get a better understanding of what's going on with you.
Yeah, I really like that one, Ms. Davis. And I'll tell you what happened this morning, which I thought was really interesting. So I'm thinking about trust in medical providers. I'm a nurse myself. And so I had this follow-up sonogram, breast sonogram. And the first, obviously it's for follow-up for a suspicious, lump. So I'm having the sonogram, and they put a wand on for people who haven't had it. They put like a sonogram wand, and they take a picture, and then they put the wand, and they take a picture, and then they put the wand, and they take a picture. And every time she took a picture, I was thinking that she saw something there, like that. I was worried, like she was going around and around and around, and she saw something that she was taking a picture of. Well, picture. And I was like, wow, that's a lot of pictures. That's a lot of whatever she sees there must be very suspicious. And then my head was turned this way. Then they do the other side, I guess, for comparison. So now I got to turn my head this way to look at the machine, which before I was looking away from the machine, I couldn't see it. This was the breast in question. In this side, when I did this one, I had to look towards the machine to stretch my neck so she could get a good picture. And I could see on the machine that the setting was 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock. And they took 4 pictures at each part of the thing. And women are familiar with that pattern because it's the same for a self-breast exam. So actually, she could have very easily helped me build trust and also reduce my anxiety by just saying, we take 4 pictures, one in each quadrant. Like I only know it because I looked up at the machine and could see how everything was labeled. So I think sometimes if they're doing something that has a routine to it or has a pattern to it or has a procedure to it that's very normal and natural, and they could just explain it, because your anxiety is sky high about what will they find and what does it all mean. So yeah, I think there are things that we could do that in addition to running on time, which this practice did not do. I think there's things that we could do that could, it was a missed opportunity, to build trust. Like every encounter could be an opportunity to build trust or not. And so why not choose to build it? Mr. Rojas, I see you took yourself off. Yeah.
I watch a lot of Grey's Anatomy, and I always pray that the doctors are not talking like that over my body when I'm out from anesthesia, or that. And then I wonder, because when I spent my time, a good portion of my time in ERs with my mother, and what would disturb me most and my level of concern was why they clustered and acting like it's a coffee clutch. Why is it taking so long for a doctor to be assigned? I'd wait an hour before a doctor would see my mother. The nurse would come initially, and then was sitting there the entire ER behind a curtain, or better yet, stuffed with other patients behind a curtain during COVID, waiting for a doctor to come see us. That level of trust is a level of disrespect that you feel in certain communities, because you wonder, does this go on in Lenox Hill Hospital, Mount Sinai, Manhattan, compared to Woodhull Hospital in Bushwick, Wyckoff and Ridgewood, Interfaith in Bed-Stuy, Crown Heights. It's suspicion in terms of quality of care in neighborhoods and underserved or marginalized communities.
Yeah, that's an important observation. Felix, did you want to add? Mr. Rojas, did you want to add anything? I saw you took yourself off mute.
You say hi everybody. So you say it's a question for me?
If you wanted to add something to the discussion, because I saw you took yourself off mute. So I didn't know if that was to add something.
I was just no, because I was just paying attention. First and foremost, my apologies, because I'm a little behind on my homeworks, and I'm not gonna lie. Just a couple of hours ago, I was trying to understand what Photovoice is. So after I because there's a couple of examples of it. If it's not too late for me to submit, well, of course not today, but part of the program is to submit our homework. So I like to submit mine.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. It's just you want me to my input about the Photovoice or any things in particular?
No, you can just, I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad, I think you'll find it interesting. And I can keep, I don't know if Dr. Davis had something to add, and if not, we'll move to the next example.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth, for calling me doctor, but I am not a doctor.
I think you're muted, Liz.
Did you want to add to this discussion though? Or we're good? I think we're good. How about our institutions?
Oh, boy.
Yeah, we can think about this, and it's also interesting to think about it, I think, in some of the ways that Dr. Phillips and I have been involved in things. So one thing that we've heard in some of the discussions around healthcare workers is that more people of color would maybe be better if we had more people of color in healthcare. Maybe health would be better for people of color. I think the same thing could be potentially said here, maybe not. But how can we increase trust? Sometimes people say, if people look like me, then I'll start out with a better, I start out kind of on a better footing.
Well, someone did that, at least in New York, but who's doing the data? Who's doing the survey to see if there was a greater response with the Caribbean lady who lives in, like, in the Flatbush community, who talked about trust and the fact that she got the vaccination, a Black medical, an Asian, as well as a Black medical professional. It's happening, but who's recording the data? Who's doing the study? Who's observing that to record the responses to see if it's effective?
Can I add up some, in terms of trusting our institutions, I think I've mentioned before that I do outreach. I'm a community outreach worker with a Bronx Health Reach, with Word of Life. I work with Catholic churches around the south and the east of the Bronx. And now one of my duties is to work on the site, in the vaccine sites. And part of the work that my team and I do, we just have to provide not only hand sanitizers and masks, but we have to provide. I have to help with many Hispanic speaking people that don't have the I would say the luxury of not learn English, but to help them to translate many of the questions that are being asked by the personnel doing the vaccine. And in terms of trusted institutions, this is something that I found, like in my, like most of the time that I'm working doing outreach, or when I'm working on a vaccine site, it's just many of the personnel, they don't speak Spanish, and they don't get like related to, they don't get related. They cannot relate to them because of a language barrier for one reason or another. And then they don't see, they will say like, it's like when they see me, they feel more welcome to get the vaccine. Even because of my complexion, they might think I'm African American. And when they started speaking Spanish to them, because they come to me and they start like talking in the broken English. So I let them like to express themselves for a couple of seconds. And then when I tell them that I speak Spanish, they look more at ease. And then I was saying, to make this story short, they were saying like, if we wouldn't find somebody Spanish speaking in here, we're not gonna get the shot regardless. And I'm like, but ain't the shot more important than to get the vaccine in your arms and for your family, for the sake of the family and protecting ourselves of what's going on? Yeah, I said, but we don't feel comfortable talking to somebody that doesn't speak Spanish. So, and the same token about, I ask him, what is you don't trust? Do you trust the vaccine, or you don't trust because nobody can get to you in your own language? And they were saying both. So I was like, oh my God, okay. So what are you don't trust the vaccine? What is your qualm about it? Because like I've been saying before, in order for me, it's just about education. There's a lot of lack of education, lack of information. It's not lack of information. Information is there. The information is there. It's like 24/7. We've been bombarded, but sometimes they want to find somebody that can look at them at the eye to eye, and tell them, this is the right thing, but your choice is yours. So they want to hear in your own they want to hear in their own language. It could be French, it could be German, it could be any other language. It doesn't have to be Spanish. That we actually there for a service. So in trust of the institutions, there's a lot of mistrust. It's not a secret. There's a lot of mistrust in the system for whatever reason. So I don't know, probably like I said, the lack of communication. They don't trust what we're doing. They just want to do it because they want to get rid of it. Like say, okay, I have to get the vaccine in order for me to get a job, or in order for me to visit my country, in order for me to get to get education, in order for me to even go to a restaurant, I have to have the vaccine, even if I don't want to have the vaccine. So there's a lot of, like I say, I don't want to mix one thing with another, but that's a mistrust that I find like every other day. you know, because when they, like I say, if we can get more people that we can, how you say that we can be comfortable with, either with our complexions, or either, or you know, with the language barrier. So, and then again, I have to help a lot of people every day, because even, you know, when you go to the table to get the IDs, you know, have to get the IDs out, and they have to ask like real Q&A, questions and answers. So they say, listen, I have to ask you a couple of questions. You might say odd, but I have to ask you this. And they were saying like, are you gonna be there? You're gonna be saying in Spanish. And I say yes. There's nothing different. The only thing is gonna change is the way my sound. But whatever they asking me to ask you, don't be afraid. I'm not asking you. I'm not asking you something else. It's just right there. So sometimes it's like there's a barrier. You know,
That's a big trust thing, though. Wow,
Huh?
that's like a level of trust inside a level of trust. That's huge.
You understand? Yes, I got you. I said, listen, I don't know. I mean, you don't have to trust me, but believe me, I'm not gonna say if they tell me it's red, I'm gonna tell you it's rojo. If it's green, I'm gonna tell you it's verde. You know, please, you know, in order for us to keep moving, but you have to put your part in it. So in order, you know, to better sailing. So yes, I mean,
Yeah, I have similar experiences to you.
mhm.
When
I
I
hope
when I
this
talk
comes
to people about getting vaccinated, they um you know, they're more hesitant if they think I don't speak Spanish,
Mhm.
if they're not understood. But I get what you're saying, you know, it's no different, but in a way, because we get the same message out there. But it is different because it's not just, you know, the information, it's about, you know, the questions that come after. So when they don't feel understood, then that's a big problem for people. I know it would be a big problem for me because if I had extra questions and someone wasn't able to understand me, it would, deter me from getting the vaccine as well. And
Mhm.
having people who can speak Spanish, speak their language, is really important because of the questions that come after. So
Yeah. So Lula May, we got much to report
We've
in.
got,
We've got a lot to
yes,
report in on. So just because
you're right.
we're involved in a trust project, we're learning more and more about it. I want to turn for the second part of this. There is an opportunity to present to the neurology department at Columbia around Photovoice, around the experiences of people with neurologic, psychologic, neurologic, and behavioral disorders. And I wanted to show this group what that looks like for, it's a little bit hard to imagine, well, how would I use Photovoice for neurology when neurology is kind of a hidden thing? But that's kind of the point, in that these are very often invisible. And so they're dementia, Alzheimer's, autism, these types of like genetic and neurologic disorders and diseases. And I think people don't really know what life is like with those. And Photovoice is one way where we can show people what life is like. So I want to show you something. We're going to do a short, I want to talk to you about this very handsome guy in the blue shirt, Matt Might, who's a friend of mine, who did a little project of his own, or allowed a film to be made about his son Bertram, who has sadly, very, very sadly passed away.
Oh.
But it is very hard to imagine how life is with a child with a neurologic disorder, or other people. I think I put in, if I didn't, I meant to, maybe it's after this, like the different disorder, like some people have done this with like, I think I sent out the article actually to this group where somebody did a Photovoice project around a genetic disorder. I forget what it was. And people talked about their experience with it. This film is pretty short. Now, let me stop for a minute. Maybe Agnes, are you still on the phone? Oh, yes, there she is. Or Jeff. What is the best way for me to share a video? Can I just show it within this, or do I have to play it from my desktop? That is always a tricky one.
So you can always share your screen with the button,
Okay.
but make sure to click for optimize voice. I think there's like the option at the bottom, like the 2 check boxes at the bottom
Okay, let's see.
before you share your screen. Like when I ask you which screen to check off. Yeah.
Before I share my screen. All right, hold on.
Matt is trying to save his
Hold
son's.
on. It's a very short thing.
It
So
says
I
share
think-
sound and optimize for video clip. Those are the 2 check boxes before you click
before
off
I
share. Yeah.
Closed caption, no. I do not see that. Hold on, maybe I can share my screen and you can show me where they are. Do you see my screen?
Yeah, but it won't show. It like shows it gives you the option right before you share your screen. When you're
Oh,
yeah, it's in that box.
hang on for one. In the share screen box.
Yes.
Oh, got it. You're the best.
No
Thank
problem.
you. Okay. That solved a mystery for me. All right. We know this is, let me stop for a minute then before I do it. So let me just say who this is. This is Matt Mike. He's a professor at the University of Alabama, Birmingham. I spent 2 years with him at the White House setting policy around how we can help people who have children with genetic diseases. So he's all in this initiative. So let me see if you can.
Matt Might is trying to save his son's life.
When Bertrand was born, he really baffled doctors.
He had very unusual symptoms and no diagnosis for 4 years.
At the end of 4 years, we finally got an answer. They said, we think your child is the first ever patient with NGLY1 deficiency.
This disease had never been documented before, anywhere. There were no known patients and no treatments. Matt and Christina Might were alone.
We know essentially nothing about this. So if anyone's gonna do anything about this disorder, it just became us.
Matt and Christina Might live in Alabama with their 3 kids. And because of Bertrand's condition, it's a lot of work.
There, both arms. Nothing really prepares you for this.
Very good, Bertrand.
At the start, Bertrand was having, in many cases, hundreds of seizures per day.
Bertrand just kept screaming nonstop. I mean, he would wake up every hour and a half to 2 hours just screaming.
For 4 years, we tried to figure out what was going on. And I remember saying that we're gonna do everything possible, and when we run out of the possible, we'll do the impossible. Science is where you turn when you have to do the impossible.
Matt didn't have much experience with biology, but he was a professor of computer science, and he wondered if genetic testing could help them finally get a diagnosis.
So the human genome is like the manual of operations for the human body. It's how to build you and how to operate you.
He got an idea. Could they compare his DNA with Christina and Bertrand's?
I was thinking, gosh, couldn't we just take the 3 of our genomes, compare them like strings like we do in computer science, and find the mutations where we differ, because these are likely causing the disease.
And it worked.
He had inherited a mutation from me and a mutation from my wife, Christina, and a gene called NGLY1. And what this did is it wiped out the function of this gene and caused his condition.
So this was exciting. After 4 years with no answers, they finally got a diagnosis. But they had mixed feelings.
There's tremendous excitement that we have ended one journey, and then terror that we were about to begin another.
To find treatments, they needed more research. And for that, they needed more patients. Matt was told it could take decades. They didn't have that long. So he tried an unconventional approach. He wrote a blog post.
I carefully designed this blog post to really do 2 things. It had to go viral, and it had to rank very highly in Google search results. So that if there were other patients or parents that were out there searching for the same kind of symptoms, they would land on this page and they would find us.
Because of this blog post, within 2 weeks, he identified the next patient with Angli-1 deficiency. Matt and Christina were becoming the experts, and making progress on this disease, it was up to them.
Describe your lifestyle right now.
My lifestyle right now is hey, looking for Matt? I live on planes. I travel a lot because I'm trying to really start a movement.
Matt is on a mission to build a community of patients, researchers, and doctors, and ultimately to figure out how to help Bertrand.
Good to see you. How are you? And so I started heavily collaborating with other scientists to understand this disease and to try to treat and ultimately cure it.
In addition to these new collaborations, Matt was also doing some experimenting on his own.
Strangely enough, couldn't cry tears. I predicted Bertrand was deficient in a particular compound called N-acetylglucosamine. And it turns out if you Google that, you can just buy it on the internet. So I took it and I didn't die. So we put him on it. I didn't know what to expect. And after about 3 days, something changed. He was crying real tears for the first time in his life. And I was shocked.
Through this experience, Matt became an advocate for something called precision medicine,
which is all about delivering the right drug to the right patient at the right time.
It's a more personalized approach, using things like family history and genetic testing. And a key component of precision medicine is drug repurposing, testing existing FDA-approved drugs for rare disease, in addition to developing new ones. And for Matt, it's also about incorporating some computer science.
We simulated 200,000 potential drugs. We found 70 that looked like they might actually work. 14 were already FDA approved, and 1 worked in the lab, and that was Prevacid.
Prevacid is actually heartburn medication. They didn't really know what to expect, but they gave it to Bertrand.
It's transformative. Now he has no clinical seizures. He used to go to the hospital many times per year. He's not had a major hospitalization whatsoever. Bertrand is happy. And as a parent, that's victory.
Thank you, baby.
It's called I Love You.
I'm gonna stop sharing the. Hold on.
Ow.
You guys can see the rest of it. I think there's only about 2 more minutes left, but I think you can see how the pictures and the feelings and the experience of seeing it through their eyes can change the way you might view precision medicine. Now, in general, precision medicine has been a lightning rod in communities around the harm that it can do. But it can also, oh yeah, he truly is a superhero. And Bertram, of course, as I said before, has since passed. But it is an unbelievable little clip if you want to watch it, and I'll put it in the chat. So I think that there is when we show you something, when we show anyone something, as opposed to telling them or making a case, it makes such a big difference. About it. I'm not sure how much is left. What do you guys think? Any
I have a question. What is actually privacy for?
It's an over-the-counter heart, like I think it's an over-the-counter H2 blocker, like for like heartburn.
Yeah,
Heartburn, indigestion.
because I've seen in so many places, like I say, over the counter, Rite Aid and Dwayne Reed, and even in bodegas, I believe I've seen those. But it's amazing that after this father, as a father myself, the length that you go, to find a cure or solution for a situation like that. I can put myself in his shoes, but knowing that this medicine that's been in years already in use has it could help them with the cure of that. It's amazing though.
Yeah, that video was really impactful. It's
Yeah.
really strong, that the pictures, the images that he's shown, because it's different from hearing about a story and seeing one, you know, for yourself.
Mhm.
One of the policies that we worked on there in this film really shows it is the idea that we should repurpose where we can and where it's reasonable to do so, especially through like machine learning. So what he does is he models these drugs that are already approved. You know, so basically when they approve a drug, it's safe. You know, they approve the dose and they approve the side effects and they make sure that it's safe for humans. So now that we've done all that work, what else can this drug do? How can we repurpose it? So one of the things that we worked on was this idea of repurposing already approved medications, because it saves taxpayers and scientists, everyone, a lot of money. We don't have to invent everything from the ground up. And I think that that's a really, that, you know, in a sense, that's one piece. Of course, the policy around family health comes up in this video. You know, what are our policies around, you know, who takes care of when you have a child with a severe illness like that? What are the policies around family leave and support? You know, what can we do to support people? But I think even still, like when you say that somebody has a child with a disability, when you see it like that, you're like, oh my God, that's every day for him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the fact that he was able to find a medicine that was over the counter, which means that it's accessible for, you know, easily accessible for anybody else who had suffered from the same disease. And, you know, that is really, really good, impactful in a huge way for other people, because it's something that they can access that doesn't have to be created first and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I just looked it up. It's like Pepcid. It's for heartburn. It's a heartburn medication. You don't even need a prescription. So that was the I think that was the, let me just see where we are with the that I put the rest of it in the chat. I think there's only about 2 more minutes of it left. So, you know, it made me think about what we could do to show those same types of things for Alzheimer's or dementia, you know, what it's like to live, what it's like to, you know, what people are doing on a daily basis, how that might go. And, you know, and then tackle some of the problems around neurologic disorders, you know, in terms of, and here too, I think that we could do a better job with understanding, you know, people who are wandering and lost through that. So let me see. Other uses of photo voice and video voice. I think I just was going to ask, what other uses would you see for something like this? We used it in food banking recently, actually, to show like what people, how food banks were doing. Any other thoughts on how it could be used or problems that we could tackle?
Well, I'd be careful to distinguish between a commercial versus getting an important message across. So I think they're more poignant when they're addressing an issue, an issue, and trying to influence policy, trying to influence a change or an effect, a movement towards something. While you would think, I always create while I'm told the task is already like done. And I was thinking about, if I had to contribute to the neuro part, I'd contribute body parts, because until I was fully diagnosed, I felt like body parts. No one dealt with the whole me. When I said I had XYZ symptoms, I had to see 5 people who all said, no, that's not me, that's not me, that's not me. I just felt like limbs dangling. So my photo journal would be body parts until I became a whole person again, because medicine did not address me as a whole person, but as a body part. So there's just too many specialties now. I remember, when I grew up, there was only one doctor, and that doctor treated everything. Now I run around all over the quad of First Avenue and 70th Street trying to find a doctor to address my symptoms, to pinpoint what's wrong with me, and I walk out with the same symptom and not knowing what's wrong with me.
I really love that. I really love that image for, for in this exercise, because I do think that a lot of, as in Matt's case, as in other people that I know, in a sense, my own family, a lot of these cases are very hard to diagnose, and very often they're diagnoses of exclusion, right? Like, it isn't this, it isn't this, it isn't this. But how we get to that is really a difficult path. So I love that idea. I hope you do that. I hope you do that and come and present with me at Columbia. I would love that.
I'll think about it.
Think about it, because
Okay.
we're trying to communicate. We're trying to communicate to the medical community. We're trying to communicate to the medical community what this is like, and it's very hard because, again, we're not bleeding, nothing's broken,
Right.
but yet it's behind the scenes. It's wildly complex.
Right. It is. It truly is. Okay, I'll ponder that, and
Ponder it. Get back. You have my email. Get back to me. I'd love to have you. Joy Jones presented at the last time that we presented at Columbia. She had a fabulous time. There's also somebody from this class, from the last cohort.
Dr. Hicks, I'm encouraging you. I think it's a great idea. So go for it.
Other thoughts? And by the way, I don't disagree with you, Dr. Hicks. It was just that I was trying to figure out a way to fashion the class with only a few submissions. Most of the time when we do this class, we go through each person in the class, but we struggled a little this round with how to structure it. So this is an unusual structure for me. Other thoughts, other things? Lula May and I are going to think about an exhibit. So, Mr. Rojas, if you do feel like you want to submit something, we're happy to have it at a later date.
Oh, Felix, you're muted. Yeah.
I'm on mute. Yeah. I'll submit my later today. Hopefully.
Good. Well, we'll continue to work on a gallery then.
Yeah, I just think that Photovoice is it's so impactful. It really goes to the saying that pictures say 1,000 words. So I think that quote really resonates with this project and what you're doing, Dr. Cohen. So I think that's really great. Because I've seen, every time I see a video now and it just plays like a music in the background or just shows pictures, or maybe like a little a voiceover through a silent video, is just that is an example of Photovoice, and I always link it back to this presentation that you give.
Yeah, no, it's all good. It's good. So we will. That was most of what I had on the agenda for today. We'll think about, given the comments of this class, maybe what we'll think about is breaking this session into like 2 mini sessions. Maybe I do a presentation on Photovoice first, and then 2 weeks later, the assignment is due, something like that.
Oh, I think that's a great idea.
Because that's what I'm kind of hearing. So maybe we'll try that for the next time. I think that might improve things. What do you think, Agnes? That sounds good, right?
I think that sounds good also, because it gives the community like a little insight about what Photovoice is, and then that way it intrigues them to start a project.
Exactly.
And I think it will help everyone understand the power of the project. Because it can be so impactful and it can change policies. And that's what we want so often, changes in policies, and we don't know how to do it. And I think Photovoice is the answer for a lot of that.
It's really helpful. So
Yeah.
with that, yes, so I think we will do exactly that. Thank you so much for the Ms. Davis, Dr. Hicks, for submitting. I look forward to seeing everyone else's submission in the not too distant future, I hope.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr.
Yeah,
Cohn.
no, it was
Thank
really
you
great.
so
Always
much.
a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
We'll see what we can go from here. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
for
you and good
attending.
night.
Thank you.
For
Have
coming.
a blessed one.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.